the lake. They killed one calf back on the edge of the timber.
Hope you enjoy Livin Local. Here's Rena.
Good morning, Montana friends. Ben Thompson is running a campaign. His candidate? Uneven Age Management, a forestry practice which could be described as careful tending, requiring skill, knowledge, and judgment.
This is about a 330-year-old larch, and we pick a spot where to fall it where it's level, where we don't think it's going to break up too much, so we don't waste as much wood, and we look at all the little trees around and try not to destroy any more of them than we have to. Took a long time to grow this tree. We greatly respect the privilege it is to be able to cut it and use it, and we want to make something out of it that'll last as long as possible and let people enjoy the beauty of natural wood as much as possible. So it is a great privilege. We just fell 300 years worth of growth, so we don't want to take it for granted.
Ben Thompson is the B in Columbia Falls area RBM Lumber, described by brother and business partner Roy as a genius with the systems and machines that make the mill run. A day in the woods with Ben and the M's of RBM Lumber, Mom and Malcolm, is all it takes to realize Ben is a genius with forest processes as well.
I did a study on a tree of when it grows the most volume, and when trees are little, they don't produce much as far as timber value. As they get bigger, they produce more and more, and a big tree growing slow produces like 15 board feet a year, and a little tree growing fast produces about half a board foot a year, and that's in timber value. So we're way better off letting the big trees that are healthy get bigger and the medium-sized trees get bigger, and then we can have the wildlife habitat, we can get our land to produce more, and we'll have higher quality timber besides. More detailed, and you have to enter the stand more times, you know, over like You don't just come and cut all the trees down once and you're done. You come in several times and cut some of them. So it's called uneven age management, and it can produce more timber, although that's not a totally unanimous opinion. That's our opinion, that we can probably produce twice as much volume that way and still have a forest at all times. This is a white pine that has already been infected with blister rust. You can tell by this dead limb. Once this rust travels up and gets to the stem of the tree, this tree's history. If we were to cut this limb off, we could maybe save it, but this tree's pretty far gone. So unfortunately, that tree's not going to make it. Mainly the blister rust. This forest used to be over half white pine, and now it's hardly even here. Here, that larch is a priority to save because they're the hardest to get to grow. They need opening, they need sun, and they need a disturbance. So like the alpine fir here, it'll start with no disturbance in a shady environment. So alpine fir and grand fir, we get growing like weeds. The other species, and cedars also grows with no disturbance and grows in the shade. And that's why they end up taking over. So we like to favor, just because it takes more to get them started, the larch. So we will do everything we can to protect these when we're taking out all these bigger trees. And that way there will be a start here, and we don't have to clear the place off in a clear cut. See, these woodpecker holes are right here. The woodpeckers were after all the bugs that are chewing all these holes in here. So even this green living tree is a good source for food for a woodpecker. Some people think you can't work in old growth and still have it old growth, but here we have an old long butt that's who knows how old, probably 40 or so years at least, and you can see how something's digging in it. And this is an awesome stand. It's healthy, it's doing really well. So of course logging it changes it. Everything in nature changes something. You know, fir beetles kill fir trees, and that changes it. You know, a bear will come and rip that apart and look for ants in it, and there goes 300 years worth of development for one little snack that a bear got. But that's how nature works, and there's always more coming. So if us loggers can fit into the picture and come and get our little snack, then everything might turn out just fine. We don't worry about smashing those so much. It's the larch that we don't want to destroy. They're the ones we're really wanting, because alpine fir and grand fir and spruce, they'll grow anytime, anywhere. all the brush out here is, I just saw a little mouse because I kind of shook up his world just now. All this down stuff becomes a maze of highways for the mice in the wintertime. They run around underneath and it's shelter for them. They eat seeds and whatever mice eat, bugs, I don't know. But we've found when there's a lot of down brush on the ground, the mice population goes way up. Then in turn, things that eat mice go up, and then the cycle starts, you know, and the bugs that eat the decaying wood, then whatever eats bugs goes up, and it's like it just starts the whole cycle going, and pretty soon you have a healthy forest. And it all starts with these little things that we take for granted that are just here naturally. This is a grand fir. This is a good example of a young grand fir. It's probably worth a couple dollars now for a log because it's so small. It could be 50 years old. If we leave it for another 50 years, it'll be worth probably 50 times that much. It'll probably be worth at least $100. So the rate of return is huge by letting it grow. This cedar here is the perfect, this is like a 10-year-old kid. You know, he's just getting ready to really make something. And there's, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 cedars in this little area that fit this description. So this, if we leave it, is tomorrow's stand like the one we were just standing in. And if this was done right, these other species in here, they're a shorter lived tree, so in 50 years they would need to come out if we want our maximum timber production on this site. But at no time would we cut everything. And so then we'd have this perpetual cycle going where every 20 to 50 years you'd come and take some. And in that way we could capitalize on growing trees bigger instead of starting over from seedlings. See, this kind of stand would be nice to take some of them just to open it up a little bit and get more young ones started, and then you'd have this ongoing cycle of cedar. You'd always have big ones, you'd always have medium sized and smaller ones coming, and you could just go on forever that way. And you'd never have to start over, you know, cut them all. The nature of cedar, if they get too old, they get rotten. And a lot of these are rotten, and a lot of them aren't. So the rotten ones we'll leave for wildlife because they're the most highest value for wildlife, and the good ones we'll take. So that's our goal, is to figure out which is which. Alpine fir in it, there's larch, there's cedar, there's spruce, and if we don't thin it, then most of it is going to be stunted and possibly turn out rotten. The larch is going to grow tall too fast and get so spindly that it's going to fall over because it won't be able to hold itself up. So what we're going to do is thin them out and leave the ones that are most valuable, the hardest to get to grow. And then, like, if there's no larch there, then we will leave another species. But larch is the priority. Is if we thin trees to where they have all the room they want, they grow really fast, and they also grow linear. So the highest quality wood comes from trees that are in competition with each other. They grow a little slower, but you still have as much volume per acre because you have more trees. And you get much higher quality wood. It's a more natural environment, and the wildlife like it. And I asked them. So we would prefer to grow them a little thicker than all the room they need, and that way we get the quality of timber that grows here naturally. Also, you end up with brush on the ground more times instead of a whole bunch all at once, and the way nature does it is a little bit every year. However, the way nature does it, they frequently end up stunted and they just creep along growing real slow. And if we do it a little bit sooner than nature does it, then the trees can keep growing fast and we'll still have the debris on the ground for the mice and termites and whatever uses it, we don't know, but they use it. So if we did it more often, we think it's more compatible with the way nature did it originally. As we're logging, as much as we have time to do, but it's not a requirement in the contract. And we would love to get volunteers to help us thin. So, we get people to volunteer to pick up trash along the highways, and we think that doing some of this thinning is a very good investment in the long-term health of the forest and actually us as people.
Well, we started out 20, 30 years ago doing a post sale, and that was thinning out the lodgepole that gets so thick and making posts. And Ben went up there recently to see how that is now, and it's a total change. The lodgepole is bigger, it's healthy, and it looks like a park almost. So it's an awesome thing that was done. We need more of it. Trees being a little more crowded, not having quite so much space. And when I'm sawing logs and I get a log that has huge growth rings because it's grown so fast, the quality of the wood is not nearly as good as the quality of the wood where a tree has grown a little bit slower. So I think it's really important for those trees to take a little more time to grow, increase the quality of your wood, instead of being so fast where they have those real wide growth rings. Much better wood.
The quality of wood that Evelyn was talking about is the tighter grain, is what you call it, is a tight grain when it's growing slow. And everybody that uses lumber likes the slower growing trees. For especially products like flooring, it's a lot stronger for beams. It checks less when it dries. It's not so likely to get heart checks when the tree is growing, which turn into a defect when you saw the lumber. The densest, strongest part of the tree is the dark line that makes the growth ring. And when you get more of those, you have a harder wood, you have a stronger wood, and a higher quality looking wood. So our view of this is based on years of selling lumber where people pick it out. And if they have a fast growing tree, they don't even want it. Lots of room, and this kind of shows that you don't need 20 feet between every tree. You know, there's 2 feet between these. A lot of times they'd knock all this stuff down and start over again, but we try to save it. They call it micromanaging. We like to micromanage.
I'm running a little campaign of my own. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you out there.